going to save it as current base for now. And then now we can go into the recovery reconciliation feature, which is found by going to accounting, commercial, and recovery reconciliation. So I did create a tax property ahead of time so to show you what it's going to look like. So basically, if you are reconciling for end of quarter, for example, end of year, whatever it may be, we'll be looking at the payables that have been created using the recovery GL account. So there are 5 default expense pools also in Greece that you can use. It is also found in commercial expense pool. And basically, at the end of the year, when you do the recovery reconciliation, these are the GL accounts that they're going to take account into. So when we do the recovery reconciliation, here is going to be what it's going to look like. So here it's showing the unit, tax tenant is the tenant name I created, and the extent for the filter section. Usually we need to input the property, the expense year ends. This is usually going to be December, unless your property closed in a different month. And then for the expense pool filter, you would like to put in, for example, you can put in like the admin, common area maintenance, property insurance, property tax, or utilities, whatever you would like to, or you can leave it blank as well. And then the post month is when you would like to do the recovery reconciliation for it. So I am putting in today's date and today as the post month. So every time you do the recovery reconciliation, you would like to click on calculate first. So it updates and considers all the transactions in Breeze. And once you calculate, you can click on display. Okay. So basically here is what it's going to look like. The expense pool, because for this tenant, I have only charged them for the common area maintenance expense pool. So this is,
Any? Yeah. Okay, we're gonna give it to the one property, 1030 to 1030 Lucre. I think you can show to the this one is better understand to the Jessica and David.
Okay. Was there any payables and recovery setup for the tenants in this property?
So if you have something mistake, you just correct it. How can you correct that? Otherwise, Jessica, you can ask to her. then our 풀가지고 이거 하는 거 한번 해보고 이거 하고 그다음에 니꺼하고 니꺼가 조금 중간에 시작됐잖아. 이거는 틀린 말이고.
Can we look at 1026?
Is the recovery setup for the tenant? Okay. And there are payables, right? Using the recovery.
And 1430, yes.
Okay. And I'm going to click on calculate. Okay, so I see. So basically, here the property tax and utilities here showing are the expense pool that you use for the recovery setup at the tenant level. And then the estimated build is how much we pre-built this tenant for this expense pool. And the operating expense is the total expense that's recorded using the GL account in this chosen expense pool. So basically, this is the payables amount. And then for the expense over base year is when you create the recovery setup at the tenant level. If you did input a base amount during the tenant recovery setup, it's going to be removed from the actual expense, operating expense. So the base amount is basically saying that we as the property management is going to pay up to this amount, and the tenant will not owe anything until they cross that threshold. So if you have inputted 0, then that means the tenant is responsible for everything. And the number of days is considered when the client when the tenant moved in. So basically that means they will not be responsible for the expense before they moved in. So if they moved in the middle of the year, they'll only be considered the expense after that date. And the percentage share is just a pro rata share, the percentage that the tenant is responsible for. And basically, and then the management fee is basically when you set up the, again, like the tenant recovery setup, if you input in management percentage of whatever the tenant owes, you can do, that will be calculated the percentage in addition to the operating expense. And then the expenditure adjustment, if you click on it, if you would like to make any changes to the total amount that the tenant is responsible for, you can enter the adjustment amount here. So if you would like to decrease the expense amount, you can input like a negative number. And if you would like to increase the adjustment amount, you can input a positive number. And the date and the note if you would like to. And basically, this is the total of the amount due for the tenant. This is, since I believe there were, so for the property tax, I do see that there was no operating expense. And it seems that for the utilities, the operating expense is less than the estimated bill. So in this case, it's going to be basically paying back the tenant. That's why it's going to be a negative amount here. And once you post it, I'm not going to, oh, so I can't actually post it because this is a test environment. If everything looks good, you can post the recovery reconciliation. And it says it has been posted. Okay, so if I go into this tenant's profile, you can see that, let me just double check what date is it. And it is for March. So it should be posted. Okay, so it was posted as February for the whole year, and the charge is March 26th, and this is the amount. This is including the property tax and the utilities, since I have posted them together.
Can you delete it?
This is a test environment, so this is not going to impact anything in your live database. So anything from here is a separate test database, so no worries for that. And basically that is the recovery reconciliation function.
I have a question. So
yes,
once you receive payment from the tenant and you put it into the ledger, then you cannot edit the details, right?
Yeah, so the best way you would like to do this, may I know which details you're looking to edit? So if the charge is unpaid, you can still edit it. However, let me see if for this tenant has an example. So for example, since this charge has been paid out, what you would like to do is you will need to delete the receipt first.
Okay.
Since this is calculated, so I can show you. And then the charge goes back to unpaid, and you can edit the changes here, click on save, and re-record the receipt.
And I have another question.
Yeah.
If we want to include our that management fee or insurance fee, estimated insurance and everything, then do we need to break it down and then put it into the ledger separately?
So for the recovery setup, since currently I do see that the property tax and the CAM estimate is two separate setups. So whenever you run the monthly posting function, you will see that the estimate and the tax should be posted separately.
Right.
So, like for this here example, the CAM estimate and the property tax estimate is two separate charges on the ledger. However, if you would like to do the insurance, additional insurance as the recovery setup as well, you will need to add it here, and then use the insurance, property insurance expense pool.
Okay.
Would you like to look at the recovery setup for the tenant as
Yes,
well?
please.
Okay, sounds good. So for the charge code here, usually we would select, for example, let's take Camp SM as an example. If we just want to take a look at the common area maintenance, for the tenant, you will put the estimate charge code here. And then the date range is just when you would like this charge to be. And the amount is the amount you would like to charge for the tenant. Let me just put in 1,000, for example. And notes is just if you would like to input anything. And for the expense floor, it should match us what you're charging the tenant. So in this case, it will be the common area maintenance. And if you would like to include additional GL, recoverable GL for this expense pool, that is also done from accounting commercial expense pool. You can edit all the expense pools from there. And then the reconcile code is actually going to be a pair for this. So for this one, it always needs to be something reconciliation. So, for example, in this case, it needs to be camp reconciliation. However, if you are doing property insurance, this will be insurance reconciliation. So basically, it's a matching charge code with this one. And then the pro rata share is the percentage that the tenant is going to be responsible for. So, for example, if the tenant is responsible for 20% of the overall expense, that's what you're going to put in here. And the base amount is, as I mentioned before, is basically saying that the property management company is going to pay up this amount, and the tenant will not owe anything until they cross this amount line. And then the management fee is basically just adding a percentage of whatever the tenant owes when you do the recovery reconciliation. And the hard cap, the cap is just a hard cap of what the tenant is going to pay. So if you input like 20,000 here, that just means that the tenant will not pay over 20,000. And after everything is set up, you can just click on save. Okay, because you already have a camp estimate, that's why I didn't save. However, when you run the monthly posting function, the camp estimate and the property tax estimate should show up as two separate.
This one.
Yeah. And I see that you have posted it already, so let's see if May will show up. Yeah, so for this one, you will see that the property tax and camp estimate is two separate charges for the tenant.
Okay.
So if you would like to add additional, you can just add like the property insurance as a separate coverage setup. And we can take a look at the expense pool together as well. So the expense pool is here, and these 5 are the default in Breeze, and if you would like to add new, you can. And basically, here are the charge codes that Breeze is going to consider when you do the recovery reconciliation. So here are the GL codes for the common area maintenance expense pool. However, if you would like to edit this, you can. You would just need to click on the edit pencil icon and select the account you would like to add this for. And if you would like to have everything into one expense pool, that is also fine. So usually in Breeze, we use the admin expense pool as the one that has everything in it. And the other ones are pretty self-explanatory, which is property insurance, property tax, and for utilities.
Okay. Can we generate reconciliation summaries for each tenant?
So for this, unfortunately, we don't have a report for it. However, you can do it tenant by tenant. So for example, if we just want to take a look at coffee code, you can just select it here, and then it will just show for this one tenant, and you can click on PDF, which just prints this for this one tenant. And if you would like to, for example, just look at the property tax expense bill for the tenant, you can also do that here. I would recommend usually doing input by expense pool. Because sometimes if you do multiple expense pool, like all the expense pools at a time, and the tenant does have like a lot of expense pools, it might be confusing. So you can also just narrow down your search by also inputting like the expense pool.
So we are putting our maintenance on the accounts payable page, and it's not showing the electric utilities or gardening or anything, right? On the reconciliation page.
Are you using for the are you using the recoverable charge codes? I mean GL account?
I think we're using only accounts payable page.
Mine know for like, do you have a payable as an example that we can take a look at this together?
Yes.
Yeah.
For example, we are using Republic Service.
Okay. Let me just look at Republic Service. Is it the one
Yes.
Okay. So, okay.
So these were not showing on the reconciliation page, right?
Okay.
How do we add this?
Let me take a look into this for you. This is for your property. Estimate.
No, we did split the Republic services to the general account, the expense pool, and the only thing is the estimated CAM, we include that, but it's the something account payable, we put it the individual payable account name in the Republic service.
Yes. So for
the mistake for the it's not matching to the receipt and charging payment.
So, basically the reason that on the recovery reconciliation page, it wasn't showing up because for tenant, the tenant is set up for the common area maintenance expense pool. But then when you look at it, the trash option, the recoverable trash account is not selected. So you will need to select the account here and then click on save. You may want to include like, since this is a passive environment, you will need to do this in your live database. You will go over, basically look over all the accounts here, the recoverable accounts, and check everything that you would like to include in that common area maintenance.
Can you show me how can it go into the expense pool information?
Yes, so that will be if you go to accounting, commercial, and the expense pool is here.
Okay, I got it. And then if this one is for 2025, we're gonna select the matching to accounting, general accounting, and the expense pool. We're gonna leave it a little more. And then after explain this thing, I want to learn 2024 actual reconciliation for this 1020 or 1030 couple. Can you do that?
Yeah, I can go over. So basically, you mentioned that you want me to go over the expense pool, right?
Yeah. 제시카, 지금 고치고 싶은 거 있으면 얘 통해갖고 지금 고치죠.
고칠 게 많긴 한데.
나 지금 보니까 많은데, 좀 리시부터 그거 하더라도 좀 기본적인 틀을 자기가 갖고 나와서.
네, 근데 이 사람이 지금 고쳐도 저희 거에는 반영 안 되는 테스트 아이디래요.
오케이, 근데 우선 그렇게라도 하고.
네네, 적고 있어요. 네. Okay.
Yeah, so I'll go over the expense pool, right? Okay. So the expense pool, let me just go over the pathway again, is accounting, commercial, and then expense pool. So for this one, these 5 are the default one in green that you can select. The common area maintenance, so if you click on the expense pool here, it will show all the basically GL accounts that's included in that expense pool. So as I mentioned before, if you would like to include, for example, recoverable trash as part of the common area maintenance, you will need to click on the edit pencil icon check the box here and then click on Save. And then basically for the common area maintenance is, for example, the janitorial, painting, anything related to that. And property insurance is just the recovery insurance account. And then the tax is just the property tax account. And then for the utilities, it's actually the recoverable utilities, electricity, gas, water, sewer, and trash. So these are the default one in brief. You can edit them, or if you would like, you can delete them as well. And the admin is basically if you want to include everything, like insurance, property tax, CAM, everything under one expense pool. This is usually what we would like to use. However, if you would like to change the name or like change the accounts, it's up to you. Or if you don't like any of the existing expense pool, you can also create a new one. So that's just like going to be add new, give it a name and a description, and you can just text the account you would like to use. Yep. And besides that, you mentioned that there's one more thing that you would like to go over, right?
Which one? I'm not sure which one you're talking about. What did you talk with David?
I think, is there any other things you would like to talk about?
Yeah.
So this one is okay. And then how about the Jessica? You just the Rico is a little different story to the 1020. And then can you show me one more thing is the Rico Plaza? I didn't remember the address of the Jessica.
It's called Recon Plaza, and the address is, hold on, 118.
No, that's,
Yeah, that one.
Okay, so you want to take a look at this one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you would like me to look at the recovery setup or the...
The recovery setup.
Okay, so let me just, for example, let's take out Cat 3 together.
I have a question. So
yeah.
Each tenant can have their own recovery setup, right? Or does it have to be the whole building?
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So each tenant can have their own recovery setup.
Yeah. So if you would like to, because you will need to add the recovery setup for each tenant. Basically, you can do that by two ways. So if you click on the tenant and you're on the tenant information page, you can either click on the recovery setup tab from the left-hand side and add it here, or you can scroll all the way down and click on the recovery setup and add it from here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is basically the screen that we went over. So, for example, if you would like to add for the CAM estimate, you will input it here, and then this is going to be the amount. And then the expense pool, since we're doing the CAM estimate, you can put like common area maintenance. And then the reconciliation code is always a pair with the CAM estimate. So it's basically going to be the CAM reconciliation charge code. And the fixed pro rata share is the percentage that the tenant is responsible for. So, for example, one building has 5 units. Each tenant is responsible for 20%. I'll just input like a 20% here. And the base amount is basically how much the property management company is going to pay up to until the tenant is responsible for the expense. If you would like to have the tenant be responsible for all the expense, you would just input a 0 here.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the management for percentage, so that is just if you would like to add a percentage that is going to go into the management company, you can add it here.
Mm-hmm.
And the cap is just how much, a hard cap of how much the tenant is not going to pay up to, maybe the tenant is not going to pay if the expense is over $20,000. You can input it here. However, if you leave it as 0, that means that the tenant is just responsible for all the expense, no matter how much it is. And that's basically the setup. So you will need to, after the setup, after the payables has been added, and you'll need to ensure that the recovery The payables you are using are like for the GL accounts are recoverable GL accounts, and also they are selected as part of the expense flow that you would like to use.
Okay.
And after that, you can run the recovery reconciliation, and yeah, that will be it. And don't forget, you will need to ensure that how often you would like to do the recovery reconciliation for, and that needs to be set up here, the company settings. Yeah. Is there any other things that you would like to look at?
혹시 그 이얼리 작년 이얼리 걸로 그럼 2024년을 끊는 리포트는 여기서 자기 뽑을 수 있겠어요?
입력을 다시 다 하면 뽑을 수 있을 것 같아요.
근데 여기 한번 그래도 마지막으로
네.
하는 그 툴들을 이제 어떤 것들이 보여지는지 이렇게 나가야 되는지
네.
나가야 되는 세팅을 한 세트한테 받으세요.
한 세트 받는다. 그 아까 설명해 준 걸로 쓸 수 있을 것 같아요.
근데 리포트의 종류가 인디비주얼도 그렇고 전체로도 있어 이게. 전체에서
이거 전체로 쓸 수 있고 인디비주얼로도 할 수 있고.
일단 리포트에 대해서 자기 다 알아?
설명해 준 것만 하라면 알 것 같아요.
네. 그러면은 여기 이렇게까지는 들어줄 거 됐고, 그다음 레지덴셜.
네.
그때 레지덴셜 했던 것만 그 트랜잭션 리코드 그 인풋하고 차지하고 돈 받고 이거 보통 비리 안 인보이스가 안 나갔을 때.
네.
그거 하는 거는 안 물어봐도 되겠어?
그게 무슨 뜻인지 잘 이해가 안 됐어요.
커머셜하고 레지덴셜하고 지금 이 리컨사일 하는 게 조금 틀린데.
네.
Jenny, I'm so sorry. We have the two kind of the tenant. One group is residential, one group is the commercial. Residential, usually we didn't sending to the invoice or the tenant reg to the tenant. So, and then after 1 year, we just provide to only landlord to all expense or all the payment receipt. Kind of reconciliation for landlord report. Which one can I provide for the landlord for residential?
So just to confirm, you mentioned that it's for residential property?
Usually residential without the tenant statement, we just get it when I get it the payment, we just input the payment. So after end of the year, you're gonna get it the one report for the landlord report all year receivable amount from the tenant, and landlord pay to some utility common area payable something whole story for the reconciliation for landlord report. Which one can I provide to landlord?
So if you would like to look at this for the residential property, you can provide the income statement and the owner statement to the landlord. And that will basically, you will need to, for the owner statement, you're going to select the month range and the property. And for the income statement, you also have the ability to select the month range. So for example, if you would like to look at the whole, the property for the whole year of 2024, let me just...
can we do Queen Street?
Yeah, Queen Street. Is it...
Yeah, the upper one.
Yeah, upper one.
And then if you can select the GL account's just going to show the GL code. And show 12 month is usually selected if you would like to look at the annual report. And basically it will show all the rent, property expenses, and net income. And this is usually the report that our clients would like to provide to the landlords. And besides that, is there any recovery reconciliation related issue that I can help you with?
더 물어보실 거 있으세요?
난 된 것 같아.
저도 괜찮아요.
Okay.
Other than reconciliation, I have another question.
So, this session is meant to set up for the camera reconciliation.
Okay.
I would recommend use the chat support, and for that we have live agents that can answer your question in real time instead of set up for meetings. So if you would like to, you can just chat in any time. and our agents are able to help you with that.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Jenny, one more favor, and then you're gonna revise a little bit this one on your lesson. After that, you're gonna put it some revise data, and some person, your technician, visit our office, and then they gonna revise all my data if I want, and then can you do that?
Sorry, I think I might have missed your point. Can you elaborate on that?
사람이 나와줘서 우리가 다 하고 나서 사람이
네.
나와줘서 우리 걸 한번 싹 봐서 맞춰줄 수 있냐고 한번 물어봤어요.
Can we have live consultant one more time?
이스나 라이브 컨설턴트 우리가 듣고 나서 이거를 야디 트레이너 입장에서 이렇게 우리가 퍼펙트하게 이걸 맞춰달라는 거예요. 그러니까 우리 고치고.
Can you send us a live trainer to our office once we added everything?
So we don't have live trainers. That's only available when you are in the setup project.
Mm-hmm.
After that, the support that we offer are phone support and also chat support. So if you have any questions, you can call in anytime or chatting anytime. Because the trainers are only available when you are in a setup project or conversion project. Would you like me to provide you the phone number that you can call in for support?
Sure.
Yeah. One moment while I pull that up for you. So the phone number for phone support, sorry about that. Sorry, 1 moment. Okay, so the phone support is 833-727-3393.
3393.
Yep, and both phone support and chat support are available from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. CST, Monday to Fridays, excluding holidays.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Okay, one more. Just hold on, 제시카.
네.
프로젝트 버젯 에스티메이트 버젯 리포트 뽑을 수 있어요?
어떤 프로젝트요?
아니, 그러니까 year 버젯 있잖아. 그러니까 last year 2024를 기준으로
네.
2025의 estimate 버젯.
Do you think we can generate estimated annual report for next year?
So that will be after you have inputted and basically charged the tenant for the whole year. Then the next year report will also consider those charges. So if no data or payable has inputted for 2026 or 2024, the recovery reconciliation is not going to consider those. So there is no estimate reports available.
Mm-hmm.
The recovery reconciliation will only basically consider everything that's entered in brief.
And then they have.
Okay. How about if it's not beginning of the January for the last year, and the middle of the month, so you're gonna start over to the property management kind of the July, and then you can make the average monthly payment, estimate that. Can you do that?
So you meant the tenant level setup for the recovery reconciliation?
No. Budget. The next year budget, usually you told me 1 year, 2 year, we have to put the data for recovery setup. But when we start over to the property management, the middle of the year, for example, from July to December. And then we put it every month, average, we can calculation for the average monthly expense. After that, we can make the budget for next year or not.
So basically, if you input, for example, at the tenant level of the recovery setup, it will run monthly. This is the estimate bill that you are billing the tenant for. Mm-hmm. And then after, for example, if you run for 2025 the whole year for this estimate, and then you have also included the recovery payables in brief, that's when you run the recovery reconciliation for it, which just considering your actual expense with the estimated bill to the tenant and then whether you will need to refund the tenant or the tenant is going to pay up to the actual expense amount. And after that, when you post the recovery reconciliation, the charge will be automatically added to the tenant's level on the tenant's ledger.
Okay, thank you. I understand everything for you. And then 제시카 더 필요해요?
아니요.
데이비슨.
괜찮습니다.
오케이, 제시카 씨. 우리 다시 한번 봐요, 잠깐만.
네.
Okay, thank you for Jenny and Max, and then you're gonna consider this one. We just the practice for this thing. Thank you.
Of course. Bye. Have a great day, y'all.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye.